Thank God we made it. You made it all the way to the week of April 21st. It means you've likely paid your taxes. It means you made it through Easter and Passover for that matter. It means we are sitting here looking at May. Your stock portfolio is a disaster, but the NFL draft is here. And we're happy that you are here. Welcome to another edition of Thinking Out Loud. My name is Andrew Siciliano, and I want to thank you for consuming all the NFL draft content that you have to this point. A lot of it is worthless hot air. Admittedly, some of it on this show has been worthless hot air, but all of that ends today because we have a guarantee for you of all 32 picks or your money back. You didn't do Spotify Premium for this, did you? Okay, good. Or your money back. You didn't pay for this pod. I guarantee you. YouTube Premium. Nope. You would have gotten this free regardless. All 32 picks are guaranteed from our mock last week. In all seriousness, the hay's in the barn. The boards are set. Nothing's really changing. Unless there's a Laramie Tunsil bong video hanging out there that nobody knows about. Teams know what teams know. Teams have made their decisions on the players that they want, and then it's all up to how the board falls. That's simply how this goes. There isn't going to be a trade to number one that I know of. I don't think there's going to be a trade anywhere in the top 32. We don't have one yet. Longest we've ever gone without a trade. I really do think Roger Goodell walks to the podium, hopefully wearing a cheese head Thursday night, and says the 2025 NFL draft is now underway. The Tennessee Titans are now on the clock, and there are no trades. Like, that would be amazing. It would be the first time it's ever happened. Coming up a little bit later on this show, I will tell you, however, that the first overall pick Friday could very well be traded. Not that I have any inside information about what the Browns are going to do. I actually don't. But history dictates that pick is going to get traded. We will tell you why. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for subscribing to the YouTube channel, Siciliano Show. We appreciate you for doing all of that. It's going to be fun. Buckle up. It's going to be a blast. Let's go. And as mentioned, all 32 picks guaranteed from the mock draft, including Sam Betesh's selection of Tyler Booker at 32 to the Eagles. One of the YouTube comments, Sam, there's no way they're taking a big, wide guard in the first round. And then I said, dude, what's Mekhi Becton?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I felt like that was a steal at that time. Again,
I agree. I feel like it's more like we missed it.
Right. Right. I'm sorry that was there. That felt obvious at that point. And I want to thank you. You know, at this point in our lives, I feel like we've sort of done everything from a sports standpoint, but the mock draft, truly going through all 32 picks the way you and I did, I had never done that. I've been a part of plenty of shows where that happens, but to truly painstakingly go through it the way you and I did, this is not easy. When you're looking at best player versus what a team needs, I mean, I just commend all 32 rooms for going through this. I couldn't imagine if our jobs were actually on the line for making the correct pick there. This is a brutal process. I mean, it really, it's fun. It's fun for you and me to do it, but to know that the future of the franchise lies on this, I'm sorry. And in regards to all 32 teams still holding that first pick, I remember when Cincinnati used to be the team criticized for never trading, and now no one has seemingly traded. This feels like such a different draft for that reason, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it's a lot different. And I still think it's going to stay that way. I think Friday, however, and I just posted a video about this on the TikToks, I think Friday's going to be crazy. I think Friday's going to be a trade every other pick. Truly.
Wow.
Because that's where you have all the second round. Well, the other quarterbacks that are falling. I told you 3 months ago, the day two quarterbacks are more fun than the day one quarterbacks, or at least the conversation's more interesting. Write that down. You heard it here. I think day two is going to be that crazy when it comes to the trades. I think you're going to see teams trading like future 2026 twos and threes to move around on Friday. Truly, I believe that. So, as I said, all the boards are set. Nothing's going to change, but there are still unanswered questions around the league. So let's now answer the unanswerable. Let's count down. How many do we have? Sam, do we have 5?
How many do we have? I think there's 4 on this.
There's 4?
There's 4 that we really, yeah.
I'm going to add a 5th.
Ooh, I like it. Let's go.
Okay. So here we go. Let's do our top 5 unanswered questions. And we're going to count down from 5 to 1. Number 5.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if the numbers aren't on the screen.
Sure. Sorry.
Okay. Will Aaron Rodgers sign with the Steelers? I still think the answer is yes. Yeah, I listened to him on McAfee last week. Once again, a lot of grievances. I always enjoy the conversation. I think he's great TV. I think he's a great interview. I think if you ask him direct questions, you're going to get direct answers and you're going to kind of see a window into his soul. I kind of believe as well that you should watch the Aaron Rodgers Enigma on Netflix. I thought it was really good. You're going to learn a lot more about the answers you're getting when you see him on McAfee, when you do watch that show. What he said, you could have fired me over the phone. Why'd you make me fly to New York on my own dime? I mean, come on, Aaron, I've been fired before. There's no good way to get fired. And if they did it on the phone, no doubt you would have said, I wish they could have flown me to New York. Why'd you have to do it over the phone on FaceTime audio to my house in Malibu? There's no good way to do it. I don't know that that's a legit gripe, but I hear you. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks to get fired. The idea that why didn't they want to pick my brain about the building? I hear you on that one, maybe, but they also just wanted to move on. To quote what's his face in Gladiator, make it a soldier's death, and they did. They made you fly there, however, to get it. Yeah, that's bad. I think he works with the Steelers. Yes, he drove a Chevy Malibu. Yes, there was a photo of it. Yes, I find that funny. Yes, I do think the Steelers know that he is likely coming. If I'm the Steelers, however, I'd rather have this information out so that teams don't try to jump me. Like if people think I still need a quarterback and I'm Omar Khan or Mike Tomlin, are they going to try to get ahead of me now? I'd rather have them pump the brakes and go, oh, they've got the quarterback. They're not going to take a quarterback. Therefore, we're not going to try to jump him if, say, there's a quarterback that somebody else wants. Just my theory. That's my theory. For all these people that say, oh, hey, the Steelers can trade back up. Well, they could, but it's going to be expensive. Remember, they don't have a second-round pick. So somebody can outbid them. If there's a team, say the Broncos at 20, that the Steelers, somebody, that's a bad example. Let's say the Steelers don't go quarterback at 21, but they want to trade back into the bottom of the first round. They don't have a second-round pick. They traded it for DK. So somebody can outbid them. It's not easy for them to trade back up. If they want a quarterback, they probably have to take him at 21. That is an unanswered question for me. I think the Steelers know their answer, and I think football's fun and football is better next year if Aaron Rodgers is a Steeler. Yeah, I'm saying this as a Browns fan. Bring it on. Let's go. Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers. Week 1. Make it happen. Browns could print T-shirts that say, our quarterback is younger than your quarterback. And they'd be right. They'd be right. And then Kenny Pickett coming off the bench in mop-up duty. Sign me up for that. Let's go. How about Joe Flacco, Mason Rudolph week 1? Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers week 1. That's a game the networks might actually want. Think about it. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Steeler. I think the networks want Aaron Rodgers to be a Steeler. And speaking of the networks, I can tell you, would love to know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Steeler before the schedule comes out, likely that week of May 13, 14, whatever that week is right there. That's likely when the schedule is coming out. Because if he is a Steeler, then that Steelers-Jets game, the Steelers-Packers game, yes, they play them both. That is a primetime affair, both of them. The Jets game would be in New York. The Packers game is going to be in Pittsburgh. Those are primetime affairs. The networks need to know. Aaron Rodgers, by the way, doesn't care about that. But I think we're in a holding pattern, and I think they have permission to land. They're just circling for a while, and you're really annoyed. So let's get it over with, okay?
Can we talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers in the building with the Jets? You hit on something, which is getting told we don't need you sucks no matter what.
Yeah.
That's just like that there was no chance that goes well once that sentence is uttered. He spoke about being in the room with Aaron Glenn. Then Aaron Glenn gets up and brings the GM back in. And then at some point they just ask, do you want to play football, man? And then they say, and as soon as he answers, they say, yeah, we're going in another direction at quarterback. That sucks. But what I didn't love that he said, he talked about the idea that maybe he was owed more respect in the way that was done. I'm going to disagree for a couple of reasons. Number one, what you said is exactly true. No matter what way that goes, think about any breakup we've had in any relationship in our lives. It's not great on the phone. It's awful in person. It's awful because of what the outcome of the conversation is, period, right? One person is unhappy in that situation no matter what. So to your point, there's no chance had that happened on the phone, the number one story. I mean, you remember, was it Wozniacki and Rory McIlroy that broke the engagement off over the phone? I think that was one that was ballyhooed that he had done it on the phone. Okay. That did happen, Andrew. Yes, that did happen. That was a fairly famous breakup at the time. And apparently Rory did that on the phone and he got a lot thrown his way in regards to doing it. So there's no chance that would have gone better in this story for the Jets over the phone. Number two, the 2 years that Rodgers was with the Jets, it's a long time in the NFL, 2 years. And at that position, it's a long time. Ask Russell Wilson, ask Joe Flacco, ask Aaron Rodgers. But he's no longer, I understand in his mind, he's the star of his own sitcom, of course, but he's to the Jets. He was a quarterback who he won, what did they win? 5 games with Rodgers? I mean, it's not like he's just not, this is not, in many ways, Boomer Esiason is at quarterback has done more for the Jets. I mean, maybe you could argue Ryan Fitzpatrick has done more for the Jets at quarterback. I mean, there's not, I don't know, that building, and it's certainly that regime, which of course is brand new, doesn't owe him that much at all. And this is a league about business. And I'm sorry, but it went exactly the way it should have. Now, in regards to the Steelers, the revenge games, yes, as you said, those will matter a lot. Am I the only one that feels the Steelers would want to, after the Russell Wilson thing, really build it from scratch now? That Tomlin would want to, that Tomlin would want to take it from the ground up with somebody on a fresh start. I guess that could happen with Rodgers there because you could still draft, like as you said, draft the quarterback, whether it's Jaxson Dart, whether Shedeur falls there, and still have Rodgers there for that year to ironically be the Brett Favre to that next quarterback.
Oh yeah,
right?
How will that go?
Yeah, well, I assume that would be awful. Although, I just set it up, is he still in position to dictate that doesn't happen at this point in his career?
If you really want to do this from scratch, why are you trading your second round pick and then giving a veteran wide receiver a third contract?
Well, does DK Metcalf make your rookie quarterback better? Yes.
He makes any quarterback better. But to your point, if you're tearing this down, look, TJ Watt's going to get paid again. He's making, read between the lines, passive aggressive Instagram posts. Cam Hayward, this might be his last year. If it isn't, you could count on one hand and with only a couple of fingers likely how many years he has left in a career that could take him to Canton. So this is not a tear it down. This is we might only have one more shot, I think, with this veteran core. Are you going to pay Minka again when that deal is up? Probably not.
Can you remind everyone how many playoff games they've won with TJ Watt?
They've won 0 playoff games with TJ Watt. I'm not saying it's TJ's fault, but
not at all. No.
It's
that span of time with that dominant player, with their defense clearly at a particular level because of him and other players on that defense. It hasn't translated, which tells me it's not almost like it doesn't feel like they are almost there. And Aaron Rodgers, much like Russell Wilson, felt like, oh, we're almost there. This is that slightly over the hump thing that can happen. And I don't see it like that. It feels more like Washington. Jaden Daniels wasn't this slight tweak. That was something revolutionary that you had at that position that changed things. That's all.
With a tear down roster,
true,
with a
around
bunch of
it.
veterans
Yes.
on 1-year deals. So I think the Steelers need a quarterback. And by the way, I trust Mike Tomlin. I think Arthur Smith's a heck of a coordinator. If they go draft a young quarterback, I think those are fun Steeler teams as well, potentially, to watch. They might even be more dangerous with a young quarterback. Jalen Milroe, Jaxson Dart, even though both of those quarterbacks need some time, you would have to think they're not going to be ready to start week 1. Just not the way I see it, but they got to like the quarterback. So that is question number 1. And I do believe that Aaron Rodgers eventually gets to Pittsburgh. Question number 2. And this is Aaron Rodgers related, but not really. This is Shedeur Sanders related. Are the Saints willing to roll with Rattler? You saw the report 2 weeks ago. Curious timing. Tyler Shuck was in the building getting a 30 visit there with the Saints. When news came on a Friday, I don't want to call it a Friday news dump. My colleague Ian Rappaport had it, but the timing was interesting. And you always like to, at least I do on Sunday, try to piece together where did that story come from and what's the purpose behind it. That Derek Carr might be out for the year with a shoulder injury that not a lot of people are clear as to where and when it happened. If Derek Carr is out for the year, and let's play the game that Shedeur Sanders is there at 9. If the Saints pass on Shedeur Sanders, or if they pass on Jaxson Dart, if the Saints address any of their needs, and there are many, other than quarterback, are the Saints playing for 2026? And you could use the T word if you want to. Are they playing for 2026? Are they ready to roll with Rattler or Jake Haener for that matter? A quarterback from a couple of years ago in the draft out of Fresno State. I kind of like Spencer Rattler. He looked good in the preseason. Sure, he had his moments last year, but I don't know that anyone saw Spencer Rattler at any point during the season a year ago and went, you know what? That's the guy. That is the guy who is our franchise future. Maybe he could be that guy, but you haven't seen it yet. So if they pass on quarterback, which means they likely pass on quarterback in the second round, are they ready to roll with Rattler? And are the Saints the team that you can already circle as the potential top of the 2026 draft? People go, oh, they're going to tank for Arch. Oh, it's going to be Arch playing for his grandpa's team. See how that's all going to come together. Guys, there is no one right now in the football glitterati, the football or cognoscente, to quote my friend Dan Hansis. No one thinks Arch Manning's coming out. I'll just say it right now. For all you out there that say, oh, look for 2026 and get Arch. Right now, and this could change, the people that you talk to that generally would know don't think Arch Manning is coming out. Now, there are other good quarterbacks potentially in next year's class. I won't bore you with the names. It looks to be a good class. It looks to be right now better than this year's class. But if they don't take Shedeur, and this is the second part, the other topic bar that we could imagine right here, will he be Saint Shedeur? Then what are the Saints doing? And is it already looking to 2026? I'll tell you what I would do if I'm them. And I'm a guy that lived through an 0-16 Browns season as a fan here. All right. 1 win in 2 years. I'm that guy. I mean, heck, I'm part of a massive fan base that lived through that. It wasn't just my pain. It's not my struggle, although it was a struggle. It sucks. I don't recommend it for anyone at all. But if I ran the Saints, I might do it. I might. I mean, you're going to go trade assets. You got to love the quarterback there at 9 if you take him. You got to love him. Love him. And you got to love him more than any potential quarterback you would take next year. Are you willing to take a guy you're not in love with, or do you just take the best player because there are so many needs? 9 is a fascinating turning point in this draft on Thursday night. It's also a fascinating window into franchise planning.
Arch Manning are the two words that you were taken right from my mouth when we say that. It just, New Orleans has this tantalizing way from a Manning standpoint. You just want to add that up. You want to say that Arch is there, played for that team with what Peyton and Eli have been around that city. Anytime Manning is brought up, we feel like New Orleans is essentially a part of that. Also, the story about the Giants. There was this idea that the Giants also would not, and I understand that Jameis and Russell Wilson are there at quarterback for this season, and neither feel like long-term options, that maybe the Giants were thinking the same thing, but everyone's got it circled for Arch. Everyone being, I would say, maybe the public, or if you read some headlines out there, it's the rumor is about Arch Manning. So if it wasn't that, what exactly would the Saints have to have an answer, or just to say better than what we're looking at now? right? It wouldn't have to be one specific guy.
Next year's quarterback class looks great. You know how hard it is to get to number one. Go back and look at the Giants, the Titans, and the Browns all jockeying. Okay, they're all in the same boat here. There's a reason that the picks rotate. So in the first round, it goes Tennessee, Cleveland, the Giants. The second round, it goes Cleveland, the Giants, and Tennessee. And then the third round, it goes the Giants, the Titans, and the Browns. They all are equally bad. It is hard when it comes down to winning percentage and strength of victory and strength of schedule to really get that top pick. But if you look at next year's class and you go, you know what? Here are 4 guys. We'd be happy with any of these 4 over the quarterback, potentially Shedeur Sanders, that we could take at 9. Then if I'm Mickey Loomis, I push myself away from the table and hand in whomever I have highest rated on my board.
Which makes things maybe easier in a way. Again, as you and I talked about, the painstaking process that even we went through and just trying to pick for teams, and that idea that when you're looking at a player that is clearly according to a consensus, so at the top of his position, it's hard to say, oh, we're going to take instead the second best rated player at a position because that's the position we need more. And especially when that position is quarterback, of course, that is just dangerous. And there are countless examples of that not working out. And there's countless examples, of course, of sort of falling into it and realizing that that's fine. One other thing, though, about this, and in regards to Rattler and the Saints were 2-0 last. I mean, it's not that long ago that the Saints were 2-0 with Carr. Look, Alvin Kamara looked rejuvenated. It felt like there was something brewing there early on, and then now you quickly pass the months past that, and Dennis Allen's out of a job, and it all kind of falls apart. The Rattler thing just doesn't feel like there was enough last season to say that that's how you'd roll into this season. That feels like that feels like at that point you would be telling the fan base we're not convinced about this season. There's nothing here.
You can go sign Carson Wentz if you wanted to. Saint
Wentz.
Good Saint Wence's slosh. So, whatever. You can go do that if you wanted to.
And one other
and
one.
There will be other moves made.
What about Rodgers, by the way, just to throw that in there also. Right. He could become.
There's why. Like if Aaron Rodgers is going to play football, he's going to play football for a contender.
Okay.
Don't we agree? There is no scenario, no reasonable scenario in which Aaron Rodgers goes and plays in New Orleans. And it is nonsensical.
And he's not going to convince himself that he's that difference, right? Not at this point in his career. He's probably honest enough with himself.
Head coach with a bad roster. I just don't see it. But I don't see it.
But again, with potentially now, if you're not taking a quarterback at that position, maybe you've gotten someone there that also makes enough of a difference. But
bad roster.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
Okay. Name a Saints wide receiver. Go.
Marcus Colston. I'm kidding. Olave, right? Who's injured,
correct?
Right? Who's obviously injured.
All kinds of injuries last year, and I hope he's back, and I hope he's healthy. Alvin Kamara's 30.
Sure.
So he could still play, but it's an interesting. They signed Justin Reed. They got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and they were late in the season. Look, they have some pieces. I just don't know that it's a great roster. And without slamming the Saints, I don't.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying in regards to Rodgers. Yeah, makes sense.
So that's question numbers 2 and 3. We did are they ready to roll with Rattler, and would they go Saint Shedeur?
Ooh.
Okay. Question number 4. How about second cousins in Minnesota?
Ooh.
If the Browns don't do it, and if the Steelers don't pivot and then go after Cousins, because I do think that's a possibility, would the Vikings do it? Would the Vikings say, and a lot of this depends on how much money you're willing to eat. Adam Schefter had a great piece this morning about the sliding scale of money you're willing to take on and pick you're willing to give up, that the Falcons allegedly want teams to take north of $20 million off the remaining contract, and then, a low round pick in return. The other teams are like, buddy, no way. No way. You're paying the freight. We'll give you a decent pick, but you're paying the freight. if it's not Cleveland, and that certainly doesn't look likely now. I would never say never, but not likely. And if Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, or if the Steelers, and they could do this, just tell Aaron, hey, we're good. We're going to take the sure thing, and the sure thing is Cousins. If neither of those happen, would the Vikings do a reunion? I think they would. I do think they would, because it gives JJ more runway. And if and when the Kirk experiment round 2 doesn't work, then you've got JJ McCarthy. I think the fans would welcome it. I think it would be a really cool story. I think, heck, he could do Netflix quarterback again this coming season for a 3rd year. He'd be like the SNL guy, the SNL host with the robes, you know what, like the 10-timer club, whatever that is, the 5-timer club. Give Kirk Cousins the robe, make it with Cole's cash. Do that. And I think it would work. I honestly think there is a chance Kirk Cousins goes back to Minnesota. And I keep telling you, this is why Friday is going to be more fun than Thursday, because this trade only gets done on a Thursday or Friday. There will be veteran quarterback moves. Sam Howell. John Schneider didn't shoot that down on Monday in his presser. Sam Howell could be made available. Not everyone's going to get the second day or the first day quarterback they want, for that matter. And after that happens, you see the veteran moves. In retrospect, Kenny Pickett for a 5 might look like a good deal. I'm not kidding. I would have preferred a 6. The Browns have 4 6s. But if you want another 5, you could flip 2 6s later and get back up to the 5th. Whatever. But that's why Friday is going to be fun. I'm not saying Cousins is going to Minnesota, but I'm telling you, it would not stun me.
And I loved Rodgers here. This is again and again. I just keep saying it. I not only did I like the idea that it mirrored the Favre path from Green Bay to the Jets, kind of an ugly stint, and then Minnesota, potentially the rebound to take them on a run the way Favre did. And Minnesota's the better roster than what Rodgers is looking at elsewhere. I mean, Pittsburgh, Minnesota. I think Minnesota is in a better spot based on last season. But does Cousins want to do this? The question is what kind of scar tissue? Yeah, but what kind of scar tissue is on Cousins from what happened last season, where he gets the $180 million contract and then watches Penix
not 180, 100, 100
to watch Penix get drafted after that contract, to feel like he was signed to be the guy in Atlanta, and watch them take Penix. Then not only that, to have a game where he throws for 500 yards, it feels like everything's running through me. I am all of the Kirk Cousins that you thought I would be, to only be replaced later by that draft pick, to now go to Minnesota, where he once definitely was the guy, to now know he is definitively not the guy.
He'd be starting. He's not going there to back up JJ McCarthy.
Well, he'd be starting temporarily. Or he'd be starting. I'm sorry. He'd be starting there
as long as he played well.
He'd be starting there to begin with. And I guess we're all convinced that we're going to be good enough when we get that chance. But for Cousins, I don't know if he'd rather convince himself that he's really the guy somewhere else, and to know in Minnesota that you're really not.
Find me a home. What would you rather, back up Michael Penix and pout? I'd pout too. I'd be upset.
Yeah.
Or would you rather go to Minnesota with a chance to play? Pick it up. Find me another home. The other home's Pittsburgh. Other than that, where's he going?
No,
they're not trading him in division to the Saints, and the Saints don't want him.
No, if I was Cousins, I'd want to outplay Penix in training camp to get that job back.
Michael Penix is the starter. He's
okay. That's what I'd want to do.
The Falcons are Michael Penix's team.
Cousins in Minnesota again is more adorable to me than it is awesome for Cousins himself. I don't know
that he has another option. He wanted to wait until after the draft because he didn't want to go to a team that would surprisingly take a quarterback, like happened a year ago. Understandably, I get it. I wouldn't want to be in that position either. But at the same time, where is there to go?
Remember your awesome advice for Rodgers, which I stand by. I think it is the best. I still think the best situation for Rodgers is what you said, and I'm going to say it for Kirk Cousins as well, which is hang tight and wait for a team that needs you. And now, undoubtedly, you're going somewhere that is saying, we now really want you. You are the answer now to our problem, right? We've started 3-1. We feel like there's something, but we got an injury at quarterback, and now you are that answer. That feels like you like that for Cousins. All of a sudden, that feels more of like, now what do you think of me? Now I'm here. Now I can sort of play savior in a way to a season and a roster that's already proven to be on an upward trajectory. I loved it when you
That-
said it for Rodgers, and I think for Cousins, it makes a lot of sense.
That might be the best answer. Yeah, you're right. And that is just sit back and wait. But, it might not happen. There may not be a playoff team with an injury. There usually is. But you'd have to wait a while. It's going to be a long 6 months or 3 months, but it's going to be a long wait. And then finally, the final question. Would the 49ers trade Brock Purdy?
Oh, this is juicy.
I don't think they would. And here's why. I don't know what kind of offer they would get. Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. The league knows he's a good quarterback. I think there might be some trepidation in league circles to overpay. Or rather, they'd be cautious and not want to overpay. And the cost for trading a quarterback of his caliber, who is in line for a contract that begins with a 5 on APY, and it has to begin with a 5. You have to sign him to a new contract as well and have to give up significant draft capital. I think while there's a high level of respect for Brock Purdy, there is at least some question. Is he somebody that makes everyone around us better? By the way, I think the answer is yes. But, and there's always the but here, and I'm sorry, is he the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow? Is he in that class? I don't know that anybody would say yes. He's 1A, or maybe he's a B+. He's a damn good quarterback, and you either have one or you don't. But perfect example, let's throw him on the Saints. Does he make the Saints a playoff team of the NFC South? I don't know. I mean, he certainly makes them better. How much better? If you were to, let's say the Geno Smith trade didn't happen. If you were to throw him on the Raiders, does he make the Raiders that much better that you're willing to give up all this capital and sign the man to a long-term commitment? If he were to go to the Steelers, now that one is interesting. I think he does with those weapons and with Arthur Smith calling plays. I think he makes that team good because there are weapons around him. He protects the football. He's a good quarterback with a good play caller. All quarterbacks, no matter how good they are, I mean, there's a degree of you are as good as the pieces around you, but there also has to be a degree of, do I make these pieces around me better? And I think Purdy is one of those guys, but is he all the way at the top of the food chain kind of guy? I don't think so. And therefore, I don't think the 49ers, even if they were to think about this, and I wouldn't, I don't know that they would get what they think they deserve in return for a quarterback of his caliber. So I don't think it gets done. I just don't. They have a lot of holes, though. I mean, they truly are in a best available player situation, likely D-line or O-line, but D-line at 11. But it is a fascinating one to think about if they don't have a deal done by Thursday. Thursday doesn't have to be the deadline to get a contract done, by the way. It just, it helps you out. Headspace thing. And our friend Mike Silver reported today being Monday, that they're inching closer to a deal. But what does that deal look like? Because the Niners are going to be in some cap Hades coming up soon if they're not there already.
So a couple of comments that were made about Brock Purdy that helped fuel this conversation. Puka Nacua of the Rams had said, does this end the Niners window if they give Brock Purdy $50 million? And it's a fair question. You're giving that much money to the quarterback, but look at, the Eagles were in the quarterback with Hurts on a rookie deal and then back in the Super Bowl and winning it with Hurts as a $50 million quarterback. So there is a path. You do have to build differently, but it can happen.
Can I interrupt real quick? I don't think it's a fair question. I mean,
okay.
As opposed to $45 million, with all due respect, and I didn't see the clip here. Like the idea that Puka, whom I love, could sit there and maybe he could differentiate between what a $45 or a $50 million contract would do to their roster construction, considering all their cap issues. You either have to sign the quarterback or you don't. And yes, they benefited. They were lucky. All right, they had pick 262 on a rookie contract, and that's the way to win, right? to your point, though, you paid the quarterback in Philadelphia. They still found a way to be good. Okay,
Yeah.
you can do this. I don't know that it's not unfair. Like, it wasn't a gotcha. I just don't know that the question makes sense.
And I think it's a quick answer, right? I think if you had time to now think back, it's not fair. This isn't a $5 million versus $50 million quarterback. To your point, it's 45 versus 50. Right now, they're doing it with a $5 million quarterback, but that's no longer the option. They don't have the option to pay $5 million at quarterback any longer. And to your point, it's really the difference of 45 and 50. So that's one thing. The other part of it is, can we look at the quarterbacks that make $50 million? Because we all know, and this is my favorite thing I learned before the season started last year was when you and I were discussing 2 new contracts from quarterbacks. And your lesson to everybody was, don't be stunned at who is at the top of quarterbacks paid and the money they get per year, because we all know that it's not Patrick Mahomes on top. If your quarterback is at a certain bar and is getting that money at the most recent time, that's the quarterback getting paid the most money, period. If you're up now, you're getting paid the most. And so
Purdy is the one that can change that theory because of where he was drafted. And yes, that will be held against him.
Okay, perhaps. Now, Dak is on the list of $50 million quarterbacks, and he was not a first-round quarterback at all. But I'd like to look at 2 that are first-rounders in Tua and Trevor. Just the most 2 of the most recent. Last offseason, nobody scoffed at the idea that Tua and Trevor were $50 million quarterbacks, and you helped explain to everyone, hey, by the way, don't feign outrage here. These are both starting playoff caliber quarterbacks in this league, and that's what the price tag is, period. That's your gallon of milk.
5 picks.
And guess what? And that's what a gallon of milk costs. Sorry. That's just what it is, right? But now, do those checks feel, does that signature on the check feel as good today than it did then? No, it doesn't. Tua and Trevor are not great examples of quarterbacks that you want to be paying $50 million today. We'll see what happens next season, but right now, nobody's excited about that. Brock Purdy belongs on that list when those 2 are on that list. Also, you could argue Dak Prescott's making $50 million based on what he did in 2016 as a rookie. I mean, that was really the best we ever saw out of Dak. Brock Purdy belongs in that. And another part of it is this. Look at what happened to the Niners at quarterback. Brock Purdy helps eliminate the memory of paying Jimmy Garoppolo what they did, and the maneuvering they did to get to Trey Lance. Where's Trey Lance? I mean, Brock Purdy helps wipe out all the bad feelings at quarterback. And this team has been in the Super Bowl with the lead in overtime against the Chiefs 2 seasons ago with Brock Purdy as the quarterback. Brock Purdy in an MVP conversation at one point before a Christmas game against the Ravens. Brock Purdy has done, I'd say Brock Purdy's done enough to earn it. The question is, of course, moving forward, will he now earn the $50 million, right? Over the course of the next 10 years, what are you going to think about that $50 million? But it certainly seems to me that he's worth $50 million. And one other point that Mike Florio brought up a long time ago, when Josh Allen redid his deal recently, Florio asked the question, what if quarterbacks said to their current team, you know what, thank you for this new offer of redoing my deal, making me, to get me to 50, 55, whatever it is, but I'm going to test the open market. Would we see a quarterback on the open market at that level get to 70 million? Would somebody, right? How much would someone bid for the chance at Lamar or Josh Allen?
That there are franchise tags at the disposal of every team.
Okay.
They could use it twice.
True. And even the day,
use it a third time, but no one would ever do that.
You're right. And even the day that question was asked, and of course it was asked in regards to Josh Allen, I thought, what about Purdy? Now, Purdy was testing the open market, though. Would he balloon past the 50 or not? What would another team see Purdy as a guy that is 100% at that level or not? And that's the question you're asking, is that maybe he sits somewhere in this gray area that doesn't feel as good with a 50. But I look at the list of those. I don't you look at the list of 50 and just think he's there? I kind of do at this point. I no longer feign outrage.
The price is the price, and I think it begins with a 5. I think it's in the low 5s, but I think that's what the number has got to be. I had a front office guy from another team tell me a few months ago that he thought the number could begin with a 6 for Brock Purdy. He had no skin in the game. We were just spitballing about the state of the quarterback pay scale. And a 6, he thought, could be the number. I don't think it gets to a 6. I truly don't. But again, also look at the funny money, and the real math here and how these deals are done. The Purdy deal is going to have to be cleaner because he is making such a small number this year. Now, Sam, you said, well, now they have to. No, they don't. I mean, they could technically play Brock Purdy this year for like $5 million. He's not a free agent. And they could also franchise tag him after he plays for pennies this year. They could do that. That is their right.
And one other thing in regards to franchise, though, for if you're Purdy, Andrew, doesn't it? I understand he's got an agent, but the franchise tag's not going to look awful if you're Brock Purdy either, considering what you've been making.
But the franchise tag would be next year.
Right. So you'd
have to play for pennies this year.
And then you're looking at what, $43 million, I believe, is what you get franchise that. Yeah.
But it's still terrible. Less money than you would get
if you're a 50.
Right. And you're also risking career-ending injury this year. So you want the deal done now. It behooves, if the Niners think he's the guy, it behooves everyone to do the deal this year, to do it now. This year, he's scheduled to make $5.3 million. It's good American money, even in this economy. It's good American money, but it behooves everyone to get the deal done. So
he's been the best deal at that position in the league.
To answer the question that I initially threw out there, would they trade him? No, I don't think they would. I don't think it works. That's just me. To answer the next question, when does the draft begin? It begins Thursday. And as I said, no trades as of yet. Keep an eye on this for Friday. And I did a ticky-tacky on this earlier as well. So the Browns are picking, and I want to make something clear. I don't know that they're trading number 33. I don't have any inside information. I'm just going to tell you the history of the last couple of teams to have number 33. Number 33 is the first pick on Friday, the first pick of the second round. And it is often viewed as a pick that, that's a really valuable pick because you have all day where teams can call you up and go, we really want that pick, and you could auction it off. For years, that pick didn't move. The last 3 years, the 33rd overall pick has moved. Last year, Carolina had 33. They wanted Xavier Legette's 5th year, and at a trade that still is kind of confusing to me, they went from 33 to 32. They took Legette with the final pick Thursday. Buffalo moved down from 32 to 33, got free money, like a 5 and a 6. It's just whatever. And they got the guy that they wanted to open up Friday. Plus, they were in the position to auction that pick off. They didn't trade it, but that was the move. Xavier Legette, as Carolina traded out of 33. The year before, Tennessee traded up to 33. They wanted Will Levis. This was expensive. They paid a quarterback tax. They went from 41 to 33. They did a pick swap in the 3rd round, like a 10-slot pick swap. And then they also threw in a future 3. So that was expensive for Tennessee to go up and get Will Levis at 33, and now he's obviously no longer the guy. And then in 2022, Jacksonville held 33, and late on Thursday evening, they decided they wanted Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah, and they traded up to 27. They moved into night number 1, and they took Devin Lloyd. So 3 consecutive years, pick 33 has moved. I'm not saying the Browns are going to move it. I'm not. But I am telling you that I think that little bit of information there is a good window into how wild Friday could be. Because if Tyler Shuck and Jalen Milroe and Jaxson Dart and Will Howard and Kyle McCord, if one of the Ohio State running backs, I think at least one of them is there, whomever, one of the offensive tackles falls, like it's going to be trade-a-palooza on Friday night. Don't just watch Thursday. Watch all 3 days, but you definitely want to watch Friday. And plus, the picks move faster, much faster, and it's more fun. So enjoy it, everybody. Watch your favorite network. Watch my old friends on NFL Network. Not that they're old, but they're friends from my old network. Some of them are old, but I won't tell you which ones. They hide it well, don't they? That's it. The draft is here. Sam, good luck to your Eagles.
Oh, what a night. You've got a fun one at number 2. I like that.
I know nothing. I know nothing. For Sam Betesh, My name is Andrew Siciliano. So long, everybody.